You can't trust Daryl Morey, or at least if your name is Marcus Morris. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, the Bucks in a dire situation offensively, to the point where now head coach Doc Rivers is having to hold meetings with his two-star players, Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. What does that mean for the Bucks moving forward here? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free. Hit the button. Turn on those notifications as well. Joining me, Donnie Freeman. Donnie, Daryl Morey is often seen as one of the most active traders in the NBA, one of the guys who's constantly moving players around. But for players themselves, that can actually be a downside. And it appears that Marcus Morris does not hold Morey in very high regard.
Yeah, Morey's had a few situations where he's either, I don't know if you remember, he lied to Harden. About the contract thing a couple years back, or kind of said one thing, but they weren't able to reach an agreement afterwards. So he kind of has had similar situations over the course of the years. And Morris is the latest guy that's kind of coming out to voice concerns with him.
Oh, yeah. James Harden was very much not happy with Daryl Morey, and it was a big part of how things finished in Houston. This is Marcus Morris, though, on Kevin O'Connor's show, said, I don't trust Daryl Morey. I just don't trust him. I think he's thinking too far ahead of the way basketball needs to be played. He's trying to do a whole new team. He's trying to build guys in, flipping them in and out, or bring guys in, flip them in and out, in and out, in and out. Does he even understand the dynamic of being in Philadelphia and what you guys need to play in Philadelphia? So Marcus Morris, now he has not played in the NBA this season, played last season, was in Philly, got traded there in the James Harden trade, sending Harden from Philly to the Clippers. He got traded from the Clippers. Morris did to Philly. Then he got traded out to the Spurs. The Spurs waived him. He wound up in Cleveland, and that's the last we've seen Marcus Morris in the NBA. But it's funny, Marcus Morris, obviously, not thrilled with the way things happened in Philly, but I think he does present kind of the player's perspective here on a guy like Morey. It's almost the gamification of the NBA and of roster building and the way some GMs approach treating players as assets, and just like with draft picks, and you're trying to accumulate them and then eventually swap them. Sometimes when you're in that asset allocation mode, you don't put enough focus on the chemistry of the team that's on the floor and why that takes time. And sometimes it's patience that's required, and then you just get that urge to tinker a little bit too much. Is that just the case with Daryl Morey? And then what do you think about Morris's comments here? Do you think he has an argument?
Yeah, Daryl kind of is, like you were saying, trying to gamify the NBA. He's been very vocal over his career as a GM, talking about the way he views analytics and roster constructions and all this other stuff. And that's led to the rosters he's built over the last, let's say, decade or so through Houston, and now what he's trying to do in Philadelphia. And I think Morris does have a point. He is constantly trying to tinker. Oh, this isn't working. Let's do this. Let's get that. Let's bring in so-and-so. Let's try to plug in this player to do this and that, without really thinking about the next layer of it. Like, how do these players actually mesh together? Just because this guy is a good shooter or maybe a good 3-and-D guy, does that mean that this player will plug in, fit personality-wise or play style-wise with other players? He's not really considering that piece of it, and I do think that is something that is one of the things that Morris is bringing up that's a valid concern for sure.
Well, it could be hard for that type of GM to sit on their hands and not make those moves, right? And not make, especially when, and sometimes that's what it takes, right? You look at some of the top teams in the NBA. Look at Cleveland. They were not good enough last year. They had another year to build their chemistry. Now they're a juggernaut. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Sometimes when you're looking at something on paper and it doesn't work for one season, a lot of times fans can have the reaction of, oh, it didn't work, blow it up, go get player X, Y, and Z, all that kind of stuff. That I think GMs have to have more patience, and maybe Daryl Morey just doesn't have enough of that in terms of putting the chemistry together. Now, I will say we also haven't really gotten to see this Philadelphia side this year. Injuries has robbed us of that opportunity. So I don't want to just immediately jump to, oh, this 76ers team simply does not fit, because I do think the injuries are a big, big factor in what we've seen happen with the 76ers.
But at the same time, he's been there since 2020.
True.
They've not been able to do anything, period, over basically this Embiid era. They've not been able to do anything. It's injuries year in, year out, but at the same time, he's made a lot of questionable decisions with retaining guys or giving other guys previously, like Tobias, who was pretty good for a while, but I think he gave him a bit of a balloon contract at one point, if that was him, unless it was previous, representation there. And I think he's made some other decisions or different things that he's done in his tenure that could be questionable. I cited the James Harden thing, but that was actually the Philadelphia James Harden reunion. Back in 22, James Harden took that pay cut, and that allowed for him to sign PJ Tucker, Daniel House. Harden was pretty sure that he was going to get a max contract that offseason. Didn't happen. And that's what led to the trade, which also spirals into the Morris stuff as well, to the Clippers.
And that was part of the reason why Harden was so frustrated. Felt that Morey was going to follow through and give him that contract that he wanted. And obviously
he called him a liar very publicly.
He did very publicly called him a liar. So, and look, that kind of stuff matters. If players don't trust you, then it's tough to get guys in free agency. It's tough to have guys want to be traded to your team. So we'll see. Again, sometimes you're gonna ruffle some feathers when you're building a team, but this is not the first player either to speak out negatively about Daryl Morey. And we'll see what the 76ers can do this summer. Of course, a lot of it's going to come down to the draft. Do they keep their pick, their top 6 protected pick or not? And then what can they do with it?
They're going to get number 1 overall, man.
They're getting
actually, who's getting it? You know who's getting number 1? It's going to be Dallas.
Dallas is going to get number 1 overall.
Dallas is getting number 1 overall.
That would be the silver lining, and I'm sure Mavs fans would still feel like Nico Harrison would find a way to mess it up.
Whenever AD is traded, one of the teams gets the number 1 pick.
But it's usually not the team that's
but in this case, Luka was also traded. So
that's true. That's true. All right, let's go here. Let's talk a little bit about the Bucks. So the Milwaukee Bucks, you can see it right now in the standings. Right now, they're in a battle in the 4, 5, 6 spot in the East. You could see we look at the loss column a lot this time of year. The Pacers 29 losses, the Bucks with 30, and the Pistons with 31. The Bucks are 2-5 in their last 7 games. And Doc Rivers, it got so bad last night. The Bucks dropped the game to a Steph Curry-less Warriors side. And after that, Doc Rivers called a meeting with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damien Lillard. According to Chris Haynes, it was a very open meeting, very honest meeting that allowed them all to air their grievances and that sort of thing. The Bucks offense really, really struggling right now. 23rd in the NBA in offensive rating over the last 7 games during this stretch that they're struggling in. And Donnie, this is not the time of year for this kind of stuff to be happening. I think this is part of why Doc is calling this meeting, because it feels like there's a lot of games left. There's not. Before you know it, it's going to be playoff time. And if they don't figure this out and figure this out fast, they're going nowhere in the postseason, regardless of where they finish in terms of the seeding.
Yeah, this has just been a really weird season for the Bucks, though, regardless. Like, they've not been able to be, I don't know if you remember, they started 2-8.
They were awful.
If they were in the West, I would have buried them, to start the season.
Yeah, look at this.
But they went 8 out of 10 or something like that.
Look at all those L's.
It, right? Like they started this season absolutely bad. Like, that's crazy. Now some of those you can explain away. Cleveland, Boston, sure, right? But they did start off very poorly. And then they started playing more up to what they're able to do shortly thereafter, winning most of the games, and they got back into it in a very big way, unlike Philly, who also started pretty poorly at the same time and never rebounded. But for them, it's weird because this is year 2 of the Dame, Lillard, and Giannis combo, and it doesn't seem to be as good as you would think it would be, as advertised. And I don't know if that's the players around them. They've had injury issues with some up to this point key pieces and guys like Chris until he got traded, of course. I don't know if that's coaching or whatever, but they're largely middling up to this point, which is why they're kind of battling. And if you look at some of their stats here, they're 14th in offense, 11th in defense, and 12th in net rating. That doesn't seem to me like a team that's really going to go the distance. And it seems like they're probably appropriately placed in the standings, but they've got to figure out a way to win the games from here. I don't know if you could pull up their upcoming schedule, but they've got to find a way.
Yeah, so right now the Bucks are very much just kind of a middle of the road team, and that's not what they want to be. Not with Giannis and not with Dame. They're a middle of the road team. You can see it. You can see it in their wins and losses. I mean, you drop a game to Orlando, it was by 2. You lose to Cleveland. Okay, you can lose to Cleveland. Like that can happen. You beat Denver. All right, there's something there, right? Like they have some good wins. You beat Minnesota. Minnesota could be a tough team. At times. They've got some good wins here, but then you also have some strange losses. You lost to Portland and Brooklyn back to back, and not really back. I mean, there's a day off in between. What are you doing there? You lose to Brooklyn again. You lose to Chicago. They've got these random, like, inconsistent play, and then you look at the rest of their schedule. They go to the Lakers. They go Sacramento. They go Phoenix. Well, Sacramento and Phoenix are not as daunting as maybe we would have thought to start the year. But
they're
then they go
blitz
Denver.
The Lakers because of this.
Oh yeah. That's just it. They're going to be super locked in against. By the way, the Lakers, the Lakers missing Rui and LeBron. The Bucks should have that major size advantage that they saw the last time these two sides played, which was one of the Bucks' few wins here in the last 7. But this is not an easy schedule necessarily. Right. You've got to win that game in Phoenix because that team's been struggling. You've got the Knicks. You've got Atlanta. Phoenix again, you got to take advantage of those kind of games. Like, I don't know if it's down to the white, like really their seeding is probably going to come down to these last 2 games. And I think I would pick right now, unless the Bucks, turn things around and find a rhythm. I think I would pick Detroit to win these 2 games. I think Detroit's playing better basketball than Milwaukee is overall right now, and may finish ahead of the Bucks in the standings.
You think so?
I think. I mean, what a weird scheduling quirk, by the way.
They've got roughly the same like metrics. They've got a similar record. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, which is kind of crazy for Milwaukee.
Right? Crazy for Milwaukee, but also for Detroit. What a great,
great for Detroit.
Been not a great season, been an okay season, I guess, for Milwaukee, but a great
Amazing.
season for Detroit. But
After
given where they've been, oh yeah.
They had one of the worst records of all time last year, didn't they? They went on like one of the losingest streaks ever.
Yep. That was awful. So now here they are. They're 1 loss behind the Bucks. The Bucks are sitting here at the 5 seed right now. I mean, look, I think in a Bucks-Pacers series, I would predict the Bucks to win. I still think Giannis will turn it up come playoff time. I think in a playoff game, the Bucks would beat the Pistons. Ultimate or playoff series, they'd probably beat the Pistons. I could see the Pistons winning the last couple of games of the season against them. But the Bucks have got to figure some things out here pretty quickly because they're certainly not. I know they want to be seen as being in the same tier as the Knicks. They're not. Not when the Knicks are healthy. Not when the Knicks have Jalen Brunson. But neither of them is in the same tier as the Cavs or the Celtics either. So it's just been kind of a spin your wheel season in Milwaukee. And we'll see if this kind of last-ditch meeting that Doc had with his 2 stars to get the offense going has any kind of an impact, because right now their teams are just walling off Giannis, as you would expect them to do. And the other Bucks have to be able to knock down threes. We saw it against the Lakers, but it just hasn't been happening consistently enough.
Yeah. So if the Bucks are to make it all the way, what needs to happen?
The teams in front of them need to get hurt. I mean, honestly, they're not playing anywhere near the same level of basketball as Boston or Cleveland. Like, if they make it to round 2, they go home in round 2. They're not getting past Cleveland and they're not getting past Boston.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think, look, and you never know. Injuries happen, all that kind of stuff. Or look, aside from injuries, it would take Dame going full Dame Portland heater.
Super Saiyan.
Yeah, he would have to go nuts to take down one of these teams. Otherwise, I just don't see it with Milwaukee.
Is there a preferable matchup between the two?
Cleveland or Boston?
Those two for Milwaukee, if they're like looking at it like, okay, we can either play this team or this team bracket wise.
I think they both mean death for the Bucks, but
yeah.
But I think if I'm Milwaukee and I look at who has the better opportunity to defend, to wall off Giannis, it's actually probably the Cavs have the size to match up better with the Bucks, who have Brook Lopez, who have now Kyle Kuzma. The Celtics, they're going to spread you out. I would still pick the Celtics to win, and I would expect them to win fairly easily. But I think the Bucks' strengths can attack the Celtics a bit better than the Cavs. So it's weird because the Celtics are the defending champs, but I think I would rather see Boston, but I'm talking they would make it a 5-game or 6-game series at most.
I actually think the opposite. I think that with Porzingis, Horford, Tatum, those guys, they could wall off pretty good. I'd have to look at the head-to-head matchups between Giannis's team versus those other two teams, but I actually think the preferable way would probably be Cleveland. But the nasty thing about the East is that you're not going to go anywhere because those two teams are in both brackets. So,
well, let's see. They lost to Boston. Do they have any wins over either of them?
Over either team?
Either of them? No. So far, no. Still scrolling.
It's like, there's another Cleveland, another loss.
No, they don't, and they still have. Do they have a game against the Cavs? Oh, I guess they don't play either one of them again. I thought they did.
No,
but I guess they don't.
They're 0-8 against both teams.
They've not beaten either of them this season. And if you look at now, one thing, thank you. One of the benefits of being an Eastern Conference team, they have the 20th most difficult strength of schedule remaining.
Must be nice.
So the opportunities are there to get wins. Yeah, it is. It's good living in the East where you get to just feast on, the Wizards of the world and the 76ers and the Hawks and teams like that are just okay. Even Miami's playing terrible, and they've got Miami
Phoenix
coming up.
Is in the easy column.
Phoenix is in the easy column. I mean, it's not a lie. It's not a lie.
Oh, that's too funny.
But all right, Donnie, to finish this up, how do you predict the standings will finish in the East in the 4, 5, 6? Pacers, Bucks, Pistons. How do they finish?
I was gonna say, like, it looked like even like 3 is a little bit separated, but 3 through like 6 looked really close. Like a bad week for even the New York Knicks could bring them back to the pack. I think they probably got. Yeah, I was gonna say I think
it's a 5-game gap. They're safe.
I think they've got probably a good enough cushion with the remaining games, but really 4, 5, 6 is just kind of crazy. Go back to the strength of schedules. Let me see the strength of schedules for these teams. Pacers, where are they at?
Pacers are at 18th most difficult remaining strength of schedule. Remember, these are all East teams. Milwaukee is 20. Indy is 18.
Detroit.
And where is Detroit?
They have a hard schedule.
Detroit has a more difficult schedule. They're the 8th most difficult remaining schedule because they have OKC, Cleveland, the Knicks, the Grizzlies, the Wolves, and 2 against the Bucks. Again, that matter.
Those matches are going to determine the seeding between these two teams.
The last 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are must-win games for both teams. And you really don't want to be playing must-win games the last couple games of the season.
Nope.
I'll shoot the gap here, and I'll say that Pacers are 4. I'll say that Milwaukee is 5. Actually, the way it is. I'll say it stays the way
it's going to stay the way it is. Pacers are 4. So you would have a 4-5 Pacers-Bucks series with the Bucks being on the road to start, and the Pistons would fall into the 3-6 matchup.
That's a tough matchup also.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I'm the Knicks, I definitely wouldn't want to see Giannis either. But I'm not if I'm the Knicks, I'm not super thrilled about drawing Detroit. I would rather play the Hawks. I'd probably rather play the Magic, those teams that are below them there. I'd rather be the 2 and get those guys than the 3 and get Detroit.
I'm really excited to see most improved player Cade in his first playoff run.
He's been great.
Yeah, I think he's winning it for sure. I thought it was Norm, but I think it's going to be Cade.
And Norman Powell's missed some games too. So
yeah, even if he didn't, Cade's been too good. I mean, the tricky thing with that award is he's a former number 1 pick, right?
Right. And so some people will look at that and say, "Oh, he should just be disqualified because of that." I don't agree. Just because the guy's a number 1 pick, that means if he makes a big leap, he makes a big leap. Why penalize him just because he was the number 1 pick?
Yeah, but he's been awesome. He's getting. I can't wait to see him. But yeah, it's for the Bucks. I mean, even going into the playoffs against Milwaukee or Indiana, excuse me, it's going to be a really tough matchup.
Yeah. Yep.
So I just don't see it this year for this team. But it's good that they're trying to get their ducks in a row, I guess, heading into the stretch run.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how they look. They do get the Lakers' second night of a back-to-back for LA. That's coming up tomorrow. And I think that, look, let's put it this way. Second night of back-to-back, the Lakers' final game of a 6-game and 8-night stretch. If the Bucks don't win that one,
that's going to look.
And if they look bad offensively in that one, that will be a very bad sign for that team.
I just wonder if the Lakers are even going to play their guys in that game.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know that they will either.
I'm surprised they've only sat their guys for one game in the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may just sell out this time. It's the same exact back-to-back, except they're going to try to win the first game this time, which is going to be Denver, and then sell out for the second one. I think that's probably what happens. So if you're Milwaukee, you can't be in a dogfight like Denver was last week. You can't. You need to come out and win this game and just put it away. So
yeah, they absolutely have to. And then I mean, you could, if they beat the Lakers, you'd have the Kings. You can win. That's a winnable game. And then you have Phoenix. That could be a 3-game win streak right there. And then you head to Denver to finish your road trip. That's the trap game, last game of the road trip. And that'll obviously be a tough one. But a 3-game win streak against the Lakers, Kings, and Suns, which if they get the Lakers, is very, very possible. That would go a long way towards, leveling things out a bit in Milwaukee and sort of decreasing some of the panic.
Yeah, that could be a good couple games for them. So we'll see what happens.
All right, everybody, give us your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think? Can Daryl Morey be trusted, or are players right to be skeptical about him? And then the Milwaukee Bucks now holding a stars-only meeting. Doc Rivers, Giannis, and Dame Lillard. Is that going to finally flip the switch permanently in Milwaukee? Give us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to go check out our latest video on Mark Williams and why the Hornets are still looking to trade the big man.